النفقة, your expenditure, who as a man you are responsible to provide for. This is the maintenance that we're talking about. And this is a big chapter that all people doing counseling, especially when it comes to issues of divorce and custody, etc., they have to have knowledge in. So we have a nafaqah. When usually mentioned, we always refer to providing for the wife and the children. But also we have other means of nafaqah. For example, we have a nafaqah over the parents. And this is something that one is obliged to do. A nafaqah over the relatives when they're needy. A nafaqah over animals as well, which is also something that people usually don't pay attention to. There are a number of hadiths governing this issue. For example, Abu Mas'ud al-Badri, may Allah be pleased with him, said, the Prophet ﷺ said, when a man provides and spends money over his family and he anticipates the reward with Allah, it is a charity. Most of us don't put this in mind. We go to the supermarket, we fill our shopping cart with food and groceries and vegetables, we pay at the cashier, we go home, take the bags, put them in the kitchen, that's it. Some may feel depressed, and whenever they talk to the children, by the way, today's groceries were so much expensive, it was 1,000 riyals. Why are you doing this? Why are you saying this to your kids? They don't know that by saying this, you're depressing your children, you're depressing your wife. If you were smart, if you knew religion well, you would have felt happy paying this, because this is a charity. You're eating from it, you're feeding your children and your wife, and you're getting rewarded for that. And the Prophet ﷺ also said, whoever refrains from asking people, Allah will make him rich. And you have to begin with those first you sponsor. So the Prophet, when he said ﷺ, 1 dinar you spend on your kids, another dinar you spend on your ride, a third one you spend upon your companions. So the Prophet ﷺ began with the best, the family, the children, the essential things in your life, your ride, your animal, etc., your friends. All of these are in the cause of Allah, what you spend. And the Prophet said ﷺ in an authentic hadith, which was narrated by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that the Prophet said ﷺ, there isn't any money you spend anticipating the reward from Allah, seeking Allah's face, except Allah would reward you for it. Even the morsel you put in your wife's mouth. So people have to know that the issue of spending on the family, not only it is an obligation, but it is something that you will be rewarded for. What is nafaqah considered to be mandatory over? So is buying cosmetics from my wife considered to be nafaqah? Is taking her once a year on summer vacation considered to be nafaqah? Or it's only the essentials? Scholars say that nafaqah is the support you give to provide food, clothes, shelter, and medications and other needed things. So these things is an obligation upon the man. Even if his wife is rich, even if she has a fixed income, whether it is from her family or from her inheritance or from her job, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, lodge them in a section of where you dwell out of your means and do not harm them in order to oppress them. So it is a man's responsibility to shelter his wife and children. And the companion of the Prophet came to him ﷺ and asked about his wife's rights over him. So the Prophet said ﷺ, you feed her as you feed yourself. Give her clothes as you have. Do not hit her face and do not abuse her verbally. You may not boycott her except at home. And this hadith by itself, if we were to go into details, that would require like 3-4 sessions, because this is one of the great advices of the Prophet ﷺ that would teach men their obligations towards their wives, bearing in mind that such obligations are not limited to what was mentioned. See, it's not only, okay, I'm feeding her from what I'm eating. I only like to eat falafel. So breakfast, lunch, dinner is only a sandwich of falafel. It's like 3 riyals. That's excellent for my budget. No, this is not fulfilling your obligations. This is the minimum. And life and marriage is not upheld on such minimums. She could also do the minimum for you, and that would not be very satisfying to you if you don't do the same to her. So there are lots of things that men and women must learn in order to get their marriages correctly and to have a happy marriage. A sister a few days ago had a counseling session and she was opting for divorce. In less than 15 or 20 minutes, all what I had to do was to open her eyes to what are her rights and what are her obligations. And this is normal. Alhamdulillah, she immediately understood, and she says, now I can see. There was like this haze in front of my eyes. All what I was thinking of is, why am I crying all day and all night long? And how can I seek divorce from my husband? But now I know my obligations. I thought that he was not providing for me, while he was. I thought providing means a more lavish life, not a shelter and food and clothes and everything essential that I need is there. So I was wrong. So a lot of the confusion that comes arises from lack of knowledge of the Sharia. And this is what we are trying here in our classes to clarify. So let us go to the hadith of Hind bint Utbah. She came to the Prophet ﷺ complaining that her husband Abu Sufyan is a stingy man and he doesn't give her what suffices her and her children. So can she take from his money? And the Prophet said, ﷺ, yes, take what suffices you and your children in what is considered to be al-ma'ruf, in what is normal. And this makes you the judge over what you're taking and would make you accountable on the Day of Judgment. So for example, if the husband does not fulfill his rights, does not fulfill his obligations towards his family, the wife is permitted to steal from his wallet what is essential and needed. And this is very unfortunate because I get a lot of problems and questions where the husband does not pay, does not support his wife and children. Even if he's living with them in the same house, it is sufficient for him to know that his father-in-law is sending his wife money. So he depends on that. Whenever she asks for money, he says, your father is always sending you money. When she wants groceries, ask your mother. What about the school fees of the children? Well, ask them. They love their grandchildren and they would be more than happy to give them. What about my hospital fees? I have to go and see the doctors. Ask them. They're rich. Or you have savings. Or sell some of your gold. All of this is haram. Totally haram, to the extent that such a husband, it does not deserve to be obeyed, and she can refrain from giving him intimacy because of his irresponsible behavior. Allah said in the Quran, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. Men are guardian over women due to what Allah had favored them over women and due to what they had spent from their wealth to provide. So if a man fails to do this, a woman has the full right to refrain from obeying him and from giving him his rights in bed. Now, when the Prophet said, ﷺ, take what suffices you and your sons or your children in ma'ruf, in what is acceptable normally, this means that if a wife needs money, she can take from her husband's wallet or savings without him knowing. But she has to do this fearing Allah. So she needs food, she buys it. She needs medication, she buys it. She needs or she desires a big steak from a fancy restaurant. No, this is not the norm. She wants a wedding dress to attend a wedding of a relative, though she has like 10, 15 wedding dresses, but she says that people had seen them all. I wear only one dress in a lifetime. This is haram. This is extravagance. She wants to send her mother money, so she takes from her husband's wallets. This is haram. So we have to know what is al-ma'ruf here. So jurors, for example, say she needs money for medication or doctor, she can take. She needs money to do cosmetic surgery, she cannot take. This is not something that is mandatory or essential. She wants to travel to her family in a different city, so she takes money from his wallet, not permissible. Okay, can she ask him? She can, but it's not his obligation to take you there. Unless you made that as a condition in the contract. In this case, yes, it's a different issue. Before getting married, before the actual signing of the contract, the guardian says, I stipulate a condition that you bring her over to her parents' house where they live once a year or twice a year. And he says, yes, I agree. Then it's his job to provide for her. A woman sees her husband's wallet. She had never gone for Hajj in her lifetime, so she wants to take money to go for Hajj. Not permissible. This is not a man's responsibility towards his wife. He's not obliged to take her for Hajj. Sheikh, she's poor, she doesn't have money. Then she will never perform Hajj, which is a pillar of Islam. No problem. Because it is not essential for her to perform Hajj except if she's capable and she doesn't have the money. This means that she's unable to do it and there's no Hajj mandatory upon her. So, what about if she's a working woman? She has a good job, she's a manager of a school, she gets paid well. In this case, the man is obliged still to provide for her. But if going to her job means that she will compromise her duties at home, in this case, there is a room to reconcile. So the husband says, honey, I have no problem in you going to work, but someone has to clean the house, to cook the food, to take care of the house chores, and you work 10 hours a day. You come tired and you don't have time or the energy to do this. So you need to pay for the maid. She says, no, I'm not paying for the maid. You have to pay for the maid. I said, no, I don't have to pay for the maid. It's my responsibility in Islam to provide for the house. And it's your responsibility to take care of the house. If there's a conflict, then I, as a husband, have the authority to order you to resign your job and sit home and take care of me and my children. So usually women would say, quitting my job, meaning that I won't have a salary. No, I don't want this. Yeah, okay, I'm willing to compromise. I'll pay for the maid. I'll pay for the driver to take me to school and get me back. Okay, no problem. Usually, men don't ask for this. But if they do, it's their right. Because they got married to a woman who would take care of them and their families in her home. Not a manager or an employee that goes out like the man and comes back home like the man. This is not what we got married for. Some scholars, but this is a minority, said that she can work and she can be married to a man, even if she does not give him his rights in intimacy, he is still obliged to provide for her. For example, I'm married. After 1 year of marriage, my wife left the home without my permission, went to her family, and stayed there for a year. Some scholars say during this year, I am obliged to provide for her. The majority of scholars says, no, why would I provide for her? She left without my permission and she is not coming back. So what is this, a charity? Why would I provide for her? I need my wife to be with me home. And this is the most authentic opinion. Now, the one who's entitled for full maintenance, even if she's not home, is a pregnant woman, because she's pregnant with my child. So it is my obligation to provide for her, whether we're on good terms or on bad terms, whether she's in my home or she is at her parents' home, whether we're fighting or not, I have to provide for her. Likewise, if I divorce a woman and this divorce is revocable, so it's either the first or the second divorce, during her waiting period, as we spoke earlier in previous meetings and sessions, that yes, it is mandatory upon me to provide her with her maintenance.